welcome to episode 23 of the Free Your Mind podcast. It's been a while. I think April was the last time I recorded any episodes. Been lots happening, lots going on. As you may or may not know, you may or may not have seen, I've launched essentially, I guess what you call a coach school, coach training. Something I'd sat with for a long time. And decided to do it. Decided to pull the plug on that. And there's 2 programs currently running. Some are clients who have their own businesses, so they're looking to, they just know that the ability to coach, the ability, to communicate better, to get the most out of someone, to understand themselves and humans more, would enable them to not only get more from their relationships, more from their children, for example, or more from their staff, or just deepen their own understanding. So it's pretty cool, which just means that, in amongst, even as I record this now, it's like I'm feeling a little bit crusty was the word that came to mind. Not crusty, rusty, jaded, a little bit. So fit in a podcast, in amongst calls, in amongst group calls, in amongst new ideas, in amongst kids, in amongst life, in amongst holidays, in amongst the inevitable goings on of life, the disasters, the illnesses, the problems, COVID, all of that stuff. Sometimes it's not that easy. But here we are here. And today I'm going to keep it reasonably short. And I'm just going to piggyback off the back of a coaching conversation I've just had with a client. Because we arrived at a very useful point, I think. A very useful pointer. Now, if you've listened to me for any period of time, you've probably got a sense that as humans, it's easy to be miserable. Let's be honest, right? It's easy to be fat. It's easy to be miserable. It's easy to be broke. It's easy to be depressed. It's easy to be anxious. It's easy to, be an angry bastard. It's easy. At least short term. Long term, it's hard. Long term, when you're overweight, or when your whole life falls apart, or your wife leaves you, or your husband leaves you, or your business falls apart, or you arrive at like 70 and realise you've wasted your whole life being a miserable bastard, then it's not so easy. But it's kind of like short term, it's easy. It seems that way, actually. Is it easy? It seems that way. It seems as humans we are negatively wired. It seems as humans, if you run a business, for example, you get 10 amazing reviews and you get 1 negative, and that 1 negative seems to knock us for 6. We seem to, that bothers us on such a deep level that it almost deletes 10. I think they say that, right? Or, 100 people give you a compliment, but 1 person doesn't, and that seems to be what we fixate on. 1 negative comment online, or one person doesn't like us, or, constantly looking at, we as humans tend to, so it's not true in all cases, but tend to normalize our life. The car that we once dreamt of becomes the car. The house we once dreamt of just becomes the house. But what's interesting is it doesn't just become the car or just the house. We stop seeing what we appreciate, and we stop valuing it often, not always. You can insert something else. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's your wife, whatever. But we just start seeing problems after a while. All we see are the things that go wrong. All we see are the things that need doing. I fucking hate this office because that door frame needs sanding down. And that's all we're tuned into is the one thing that's problematic. My fucking business, my staff this, my staff that, and this has gone wrong and that's gone wrong. But we're forgetting to look at all the things we appreciate. We forget to think about all the things the staff do right, or all the things the business does well, or all the money the business makes and how that can afford us the lifestyle we have, or enable us to give to charity, or enable us to help out friends or family, or, to even pay your staff's bills, or for them to pay their own bills because they're the one doing the job, right? And how that supports them, and how that supports their family, and how the suppliers you pay, that funds someone else's business, and the drivers that have driven the stuff, or we forget to look beyond. We forget to look at what we appreciate. We forget to look at, we forget to we just get here, we walk to the office, or wherever we're going, right? And we forget to even appreciate the fact that we've even got a body that somehow beats its own heart Somehow your endocrine system does whatever it's doing with its hormones, and we're alive. But all we're thinking about is fucking ankles hurting. Oh, fucking stupid body. This shit stupid body that I have, my ankle's hurting. It's not, but I'm giving you an example, right? That's the wife. The wife hasn't bought me any cashews, and that's ruined my my macros today, because now I can't have cashews in my smoothie. And fuck's sake, she hasn't hoovered. Like, is she doing anything? Like, these aren't real thoughts, but you get the idea, right? Oh, Max keeps leaving his socks on the floor, and that pisses you off. And we're just tuned in to this negative focus. We're just always looking at what we don't have instead of what we do. We're always looking at what we want instead of what we have. Looking at the mistakes that are being made instead of the things that are being done well. The weaknesses of our staff or our friends or our kids or our whoever instead of the strengths. We take for granted the things that we should appreciate because we forget. We forget to appreciate the small things. We forget to appreciate the basic things. We forget to appreciate ourselves, this existence, our creations in life, and we normalize it. We forget that one day we dreamt of a house when we lived in a flat. We forget that there was times where, and this will be different for you, I'll speak for myself, right? I can forget that I once lived in a flat and dreamt of the day that I didn't. I can forget that I once used to have to pay for petrol at the pay at the pump, because back in the day, as long as you had at least £1 in your account, you could fill up your tank. And then I knew I had about 2 weeks to try and find that money somehow. And either way, even if I got a bank charge, at least I had petrol, right? I forget that there are times, I don't even know how much petrol costs anymore. And that's, of course, it's not because I'm a bazillionaire, but it's because it's not something I have to think about anymore. But there might be a new complaint. Fuck's sake, I do need 4 new tyres. Great, you need 4 new tyres on my dream car that I forget that I have. On the dream car that I take for granted because I just get in it and just arrive somewhere. And I forget about the fact that there was a time I used to get the train in the rain and wish, oh, Lord, if only I could afford, whoever Lord is, right? I don't pray, but, let's go with it. Lord, if only I had the money for a car. My first car cost £375. It was a H-Reg baby blue Fiesta that had an oil leak that my brother paid for because I didn't have 375 quid. It took me years to pay him back. In fact, I don't even know if I paid him back. Don't tell him. Hopefully he's not listening. But we take it all for granted. We forget to appreciate the small things. We forget, and you can actually make a practice of this, right? You can actually, I don't often subscribe tools or tactics because you can miss the point. You can miss the behind the scenes of what this really is. Because what is it? Well, it's just thinking. Our thinking is negatively biased if we're, thinking negatively, right? Or pessimistic, or looking at all the problems. If you're a problem solver, which a lot of my clients tend to be, then we're good at solving problems. But because we're good at solving problems, we find ourselves always looking for problems that need solving. Especially if you're in a job or a business, there's always something that can be improved. There's always something that can be better. There's always something that needs doing, and there's always something going wrong. But if you live in that feeling, if you live in the feeling of your thinking, if you live in that, if you're sucked into that thinking, then life is fucking miserable. It's just miserable. And you think, when do I get to be happy? When does everything stop going wrong? And the truth is, when does everything stop going wrong? Never. Life is inherently problematic. The quicker you accept that and see that, the better. When do you get to be happy? You get to be happy the minute you stop thinking about things that make you unhappy. The minute you shift your perspective, the minute you start thinking new thoughts, the minute you actually get out of your thinking and into your life, the minute you stop constantly using this gift of consciousness, this gift of awareness, the minute you stop using that to look at all the shit that you're not happy with, or all the things you don't have, or comparing yourself, etc., you see the general theme here, right? You see the trend. I don't need to keep over-egging the pudding here. I think I've made my point probably about 5 minutes ago. But just like to kind of lay it on thick and make sure I haven't left any bits out, because we can practice. That's where the practice of gratitude comes from. The idea is that we can take time to think about things we appreciate, think about the things that we're grateful for. And I can tell you now, this has transformed my marriage. Years ago, this was one of the first steps I took. I realised all I ever did was think about what I didn't have, what she didn't do, what I didn't have, all the things she did wrong, the parts that annoyed me. And it was difficult at first. What do I appreciate about her? It was like I'd never asked myself that question. I don't know. What do I appreciate about her? What do I appreciate about what she does? What do I appreciate about her contribution to this relationship or to the kids? And it was difficult at first. And then I started to notice the small things, the big things that I hadn't even seen, the things I took for granted. Then I actually started to tell her about those things. Now, whenever I get my clients to do this, their wife replies, if it's in a message, or they say, "What have you done?" Or they say, "What's wrong with you? Are you dying?" No, just trying to be a nicer person, a better person, that's all, and they get used to it. And then you'll find that it starts coming back as well. The amount of times I hear, a wife doesn't feel appreciated or a husband doesn't, it's because they're not giving what they want. It's like, well, she doesn't appreciate me, but then you don't appreciate her. So, there's that. Anyway, don't do it for that reason. Do it because it's genuine, right? Do it for your own enjoyment of life. Do it for your own happiness, right? Start to notice, what do you appreciate about your life? What do you appreciate about yourself? What do you appreciate about your business? What do you appreciate about, your staff or your job or money or whatever? There's always something to appreciate. Even when I was like 50 grand in debt, there was still something to appreciate. It's like, I can't afford petrol, but at least I appreciate the fact that I know a trick to make sure there's petrol in the car. And I appreciate that I've actually got a car, because if I didn't, I'd be on a bicycle, and that'd be a lot harder. And then I'd appreciate, wow, I've actually got a spare £3.70 for a latte. And it was the best latte I've ever tasted. It was like, And I'd appreciate, wow, I never used to be able to afford a latte, and I'm so glad, It can be really small stuff. Now, I will start to wrap this up, but when I was a PT back in the day, one of the things that made me different, and one of the things that potentially made me successful in what I did, is because of this approach. I had this approach even then. I recognised, we're training the physical, but the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual is playing a part in motivation, desire, drive, etc. At the end of the session, we would meditate, because it was like an evening session. So if you go home absolutely wired, you're buzzing out of your bloody, out of your face, like you've done a line of something, you can't sleep. So I would bring them down again, lights off, we'd meditate. And at the end of that meditation, and a lot of them at first would giggle because this was weird. Who's this bloke? What's happening? I'm laying in this room with like 12 other women or whatever. And at first, I'd get them to reflect on it as well. So what did you appreciate? And I'd get some people to kind of talk about it. And the newbies would be like, I couldn't think of a thing. And it's like, yeah. I wonder what implication that's having on your life and your happiness, right? The ones that had been here a few weeks started to be a bit more normal, started to not feel so stupid, started to feel like, oh, okay, I get this now. And then started to feel like, I actually really like this. They'd say, this is the only time all week that I actually stop. And I never think about the things I appreciate until this time, James. Cool. And by week 3, that list would have gone from maybe one thing to 6 things. And the ones that had been there by, say, week 5, week 6, longer, the ones that had been there for years, they could just reel off lists of appreciation. This and 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 this. It's a practice. We're just not very well practiced at appreciating us, our lives, the people in our lives, the things we have. We're just so well practiced. You get good at the things you practice. Keep kicking a ball at a goal, you'll eventually get good at it. Keep trying to sell to people, you'll get good at sales. Keep talking on camera, one day you don't feel like an awkward weirdo. You don't look like an awkward weirdo. I assume, anyway. Hopefully I don't, otherwise I've just devoided my entire point. But you get good at the things you practice. Well, most humans are practicing negativity, practicing looking for the problems that need solving and the things that aren't right and the things they don't have and the things that they tell themselves would make them happy if only they had them. Right? I'm going to leave it there because, we've done 15 minutes. That's a nice little chunk. I like 15 minutes. That feels like a good time. And I'm still talking about the podcast, by the way, nothing else. I don't time that. I'm not like, right, I've got 15 minutes. So nearly going off on a tangent there, but I'm not going to. So anyway, I hope you enjoy me being back. If you do, then let me know, because it's quite nice to be patted on the head sometimes, you know. Show me some appreciation. If I've made a difference in your life, tell me about it, and then maybe I can enjoy a little dopamine rush. And then maybe I can thank you for listening and tell you that I appreciate you being here. There's a clue there. Have you ever noticed I do that? Have you ever noticed at the end of all of my podcasts, I always tell you I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day. So I didn't even know I did that until now. But that's because I've practiced. Oh, James, you're so positive. Yeah, I've practiced this. But I also understand the nature of thinking. And if you don't understand that yet, go back and listen to every single podcast episode right from the beginning and start again. And keep doing that over and over and over again until you think you know a little bit about what I mean by the nature of thinking, the elusive nature of thinking. If you already get some sense of it, then we're good, right? You'll never truly know, because it's like clouds in the sky. It's constantly changing. Every time you think you know, you realise you don't know. And the more you think you know, usually the more you don't know. You'll notice that. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. People that think they know the most normally know the least. People that think they've got no fucking idea what they're talking about. Literally, I've got no idea. I'm just talking bollocks on a podcast right now. I feel like there's so much more to learn. They're the ones that normally know more or know the most. So that's interesting. That's a slightly different insight. So let's leave it there. I do appreciate you being here. I mean that. I enjoy this, and I hope you enjoy it. And above all, I hope you get insights from that. I hope this enables you to see new thoughts, fresh thinking. I hope it shifts your mood enough for you to feel something, this calmness, this settled down state. And I hope you know that that generally means something. I hope this points you beyond your thinking. I hope this points you to the cracks in your own thinking. The shift in perspective represents, wow, there's a different way of living. There's a different way of thinking. There's a different way of viewing the world. That's my job, right? To get you to expose the gaps in your thinking, to fuck around with it a bit, to give you new, fresh ways of looking at things, so your life starts to look different even if nothing's changed. Now, I can only do so much because there's only currently me talking to myself, just knowing you're going to be there, compared to obviously being in a conversation. Anyway, let me stop talking. I will let myself stop talking. Have a good one. I'll speak to you soon.